Well, good evening, Galleon. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary. It's another Monday night and a live stream with a couple of new pieces of information, sort of updates, and then any questions that you may have. We are moving ever so slowly towards acquiring the old, almost collapsed, but certainly in need of demolished building on Harding Way East. You know, for people who've been in the community a long time, it was part of, as I recall, Logan's Furniture. But in any event, that property will soon be in city's possession, and we will at City Hall be asking council to appropriate, a certain amount of money that we can bid out and get that building torn down. So that's one small kind of update. Now, what we do with that, and there's certainly a building to the west of it under private ownership, but we'll get that. What I consider maybe a dangerous situation and certainly an eyesore. Free up that lot and see what kind of post-demo development we can get going there. The next, perhaps, we've been working on this, gosh, I hate to even think, maybe back in 15 or 16 we began putting together, as we completed sections of Portland Way, it became pretty clear that ultimately for Galleon's current transportation and near-term and longer-term development, that it's necessary to continue that widening effort. So we began that, gosh, it seems 4 or 5 years ago, and I've updated this audience a handful of times. As we entered into 2021, the plan that's in the budget was for the city to borrow some money from the state, an entity called the State Infrastructure Bank, and that would add a 3% interest. The other detail of that is that it's definitely was in Galleon's interest to pay that off in 10 years. So we knew that was a pretty significant commitment that we would be making on behalf of gas taxpayers and income taxpayers here in the community. So we had been working as we first acquired, almost $3 million. I think it was $2.75 million of grant funding from the state. And then, however, we still had a relatively large, about $850,000 that we needed to come up with for the construction phase of the project. So it will likely be in the neighborhood of $5.5 million. So we've been spending a few years putting those pieces of the puzzle together. Late last week, in fact, on Friday afternoon, we got a phone call, and an entity known as the Ohio Public Works Commission had some surplus funding that they were offering out for loans. So to make a long and somewhat complicated story short, we were notified that the city is going to get that $850,000 at 0% interest and be able to extend that out over 20 years. So it's a pretty big hit. Just interest savings alone is somewhere in the neighborhood of $120,000 to $130,000. So whenever you can bring down the cost of the project towards the letting of the project and construction, I think that's a pretty good step in the right direction. So I wanted to let people know that we won't be borrowing money from the State Infrastructure Bank, but we as in the city will be getting a loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission, which is a heck of a lot better deal. So those two pieces of update information, I think, are good news for the city. I want to take one more step forward and mention that we're on the agenda for tomorrow. There are 4 pieces of legislation. One of them is the proposed local paving program or ordinance. And so that has been, I think, up on our website, the streets that have been voted onto an ordinance. There'll be one little tweak that I'd expect to happen if you were to get a council packet or ask for that ordinance that I'm referring to, you'd see there's included in that the idea of paving the Splash Park parking lot, the old East Park parking lot. Turns out that there's a better way to get that done as well, and so what I hope council will do is delete that from that section, and then my hope is that we'll come back around and add that to some of the paving work that's gonna be a part of the freeze fund, paving as in the bike path paving, not street paving. So our hope is to include that in the freeze allocation this year and get that parking lot, which is, it gets a lot of use, and really when we opened the Splash Park, we simply put a seal coat on that and striped it. We really didn't pave it at that point, so we'd have to go back and look to see when the last time that East Park parking lot was paved. So those are, I guess the most of what's going on. Tomorrow night has again 3 other ordinances. One is authorizing us to pave a runway. And that is, I think, 90 or 95% federal funds, so it's a major improvement for our general aviation community in town, and certainly we'll improve that use of that facility, and it's smart. I think it's smart use. I think everybody, because I believe it was passed unanimously, I think everybody understands this to be good for the city and good for the airport, and certainly with just another example of the abundance of federal funds that are out there over the next short term, and it looks like over the next several years. So it's going to require somebody in the mayor's office that understands how these federal funds can be accessed and how to make best use of them. So I think that's part of what my message is on the Portland Way project, where we secured some more low interest funding. So it's it may look easy on the outside, but there's certainly a lot to getting these kinds of projects from the idea form to the drawing board, from the drawing board into the into reality. So anyways, I'll stop blowing my horn, see if there's any questions out there, Matt.
Yes, Mayor, we do have a couple to start out with.
Yep.
First one tonight came from Dawn. She said, are there any new plans for the swimming pool?
We have good news on that, Dawn, in that we are not going to, in the short term, propose any kind of major reconstruction of the pool. Looks like we can do some crack sealing and repaint the pool. We're in the very end of, or getting real close to completing, let's say it that way, the rebuild, and then we'll paint the slide. So what I think others had been concerned would be a significant cost to keep Hi-C Park Pool in good repair. Turns out to be more of a repair job than a reconstruction job. So I think all of that is budgeted, and we should have those improvements made before it comes time to open the pool. All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mayor. Next question tonight also came from Dawn. Separate topic.
Sure.
Who or what is going into the former Majid's building uptown?
Yeah, I don't know who, but I don't know what, but I know who purchased it, and I believe it is Kent Gimbel that purchased it, and so they are working on rehabilitating that and turning it into commercial space. And I'm not real familiar with that building, but I think certainly at one point there was some apartment space up there on that second floor. So I've talked with Kent about it, but I don't have a real good or detailed explanation or understanding, rather, of what he's going to do. But I know that the first floor, the street level, is being rehabbed, and I think Mr. Gimbel has done a good job over the years, maybe even a great job of finding tenants to come into the building. So I think the key is to get the building in a condition, and so we'll kind of see how that goes. But that's the most that I know of it.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor. Next question tonight came from Cindy. Going back to the building demolition you referred to earlier,
Yep.
she asked, were you talking about the old grocery store on Harding Way East where the
No.
roof is caving in?
Yeah, no, Cindy, not that far. It's the old grocery store is up a little farther east, the Galleon Square Market. This was actually a furniture store. It's kind of between where the Matheson Chiropractic and was on Harding Way East on the north side, and the alley by the AmVets. That's kind of where to situate it. It's not as far east as she's mentioning.
Okay. Next question tonight came from Ada. She asked, I was wondering if there will be another community cleanup anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that's May 21st.
22nd.
22nd. Well, see, we're going to tell everybody it's the 21st, and then we won't be busy. We won't be set up for it. But no, it's 22nd. I misspoke. Gosh, near the end of May. And we're still working on some plans. I'll mention this again, Ada. Thanks for asking. We're looking for a church group, community group that may be interested in making that something that they would really like to work with us. Our ability to pick stuff that we would accept at the drop-off site. We really aren't set up to go out to a residence and pick up stuff. It's really going to be a drop-off, and so we'd be open to finding a community partner that would help with some residences that are, let's just say, for instance, a shut-in older person doesn't have family network to help, that we could maybe get some of those properties straightened out. But if that doesn't materialize, we'll still proceed on the 22nd with a drop-off, tires, and we'll see a lot of old couches and not appliances, but kind of household wares, old furniture, and tires by the truckload. So that's the short version of it.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
Sure.
Next question tonight came from Cindy. Again, going back to
Yeah.
previous question. What is going on with the old grocery store then?
I don't know. I'd heard that there was a change in ownership, but I really don't have what we can do, Cindy. We know how to get in touch with you, or we can ask the building inspector, who I'm sure he's sitting like right by his computer watching this. But if in the off event that Eric isn't on tonight, we'll get an answer from him to see if we have a demo permit and can get a little bit better handle on what is going there, and then send that back out to you. Fair enough?
Okay. Those are all the questions I have at this time.
All right. I think that we're, myself and a lot of other Galleonites, because I saw a lot of people out this weekend, were out using the parks. It was great, as it always is, to see those kind of spring back into action. There was activity on both softball and baseball diamonds at Pico, and activity at South Park, out at Amon's, and the Splash Park. So I think we're up and running. Whenever you begin a season, you can identify or you see some things that we need to get. Get those next couple of weeks, so that we can work on them. Hopefully, we'll have some decent weather and go from there. So, seems like. Anything else you can think of, Matt?
No, I can't.
We're inchworming along at the depot. Matt spent an hour or so with a contractor that I think offered us some advice. I'm not sure this gentleman's schedule is going to allow him to bid on the project, but we're trying to narrow down how to spend a relatively scarce amount of money on the second floor of the depot as we wait for the state money to roll in or fit in with SCAD, and they'll turn that first floor. Our plan is, and I think our hopes will be confirmed, that we get that renovated as well. So that's something that we're taking a few steps toward. Let me finish up, if there are any more questions, by saying there are two meetings that will be important to Gallion. One, it will be at Bucyrus tomorrow morning. It'll be Matt or someone in addition from our office will staff that, and that'll be the county-wide discussion on what to do with community development block grant funds for this upcoming state year. So we've got a pretty well detailed project, and some people who follow this in a very detailed way will remember the last time the county divvied up the money. Gallion didn't get a project. Now we're working on some sidewalk money, but we believe we've submitted a good project for this year, or we're going to submit a good project for this year. And that would be at least, but specifically, the tie-in of the residences and businesses on Charles Street that went through that long summer last year as we tried to get a new sewer made in and extend the reach of the city sewer out a few hundred feet. It was a step in the right direction. It's not the end of that, but trying to sewer all of those areas that are in the city limits in Gallion and try to get that accomplished. So that'll be going on, and then as it's turning out, just about every meeting the Port Authority has kind of their monthly meeting, but that's where I expect to be at and begin to assess and avoid the Free Center project from slipping into kind of a neutral state. So there was all kinds of talk and a lot of activity, and then not much, kind of no smoke signals on the horizon as far as which way that project's going. I'd like to see it get built, and so I'll be trying to understand what can be done to move it from where it's at now, forward, both through council and then ultimately to the Freeze Foundation. So, all right, we got a question.
Yes, I just had one come in from Dee. She
Sure.
asked, has the old Elliott Machine building on Wrench Avenue been sold or purchased?
No, not that I know of. It had been purchased, I believe, as part of a real estate package, and it's a really good question. I'll give myself not the highest grade on that has the city done everything they could to identify the owner, make contact, and try to have them donate. That might be a joke, but put that building in a position the city can acquire it and demolish it. Dee didn't ask this, but some detail on that building is that it's been out of its non-conforming use. It was grandfathered in as a manufacturing building, and after 2 years of not being used for that, it loses that status. So it's right in the middle of a residential zoning area. I gotta say, it's a lot of things, but it doesn't look like a residence. And so what we're trying to do, and your question will light a little bit of a fire under my fanny to elevate that in something that we can even talk about with the port tomorrow, so that can be acquired in conjunction with the rest of that and really round out that site. So nothing much new on it other than a New Jersey company that's a real estate broker, real estate buyer, currently owns it. So that's all I got on that.
Okay, and I had no other questions tonight.
Yeah, we're the development of residential housing. I think the development of commercial properties is really kind of sliding sideways because of the increase in wood prices. Now, it was interesting. I talked to a gentleman today who was, and this is a home edition, so it probably doesn't translate entirely. But when you looked at the price of the wood within the overall project this guy was working on, it's significant. I'm not denying that, but it's not. We've got to figure out how to not have the price of wood be something that stops housing and development. So again, tomorrow, Port Authority meeting, they're open to the public, they're at the Pizza Hut. I believe they start at 9:30 tomorrow. You know, you're welcome to come and listen in or participate, but we're gonna begin to sort of flesh out things that the port can do to get some of the housing projects that have been proposed off the drawing board and back onto actually getting them built. So that's only part of tomorrow's exciting day is a Board of Health meeting and a council meeting. So anyone interested in either actively or passively participating in local government, tomorrow might be your day. So, we have anything else?
No, we don't.
All right. Well, I think people enjoy their spring. We'll see you. It's only a week. I'll see you next week, and we'll see if some of the things we talked about tonight have firmed up, and heaven knows what will happen in Galleon in 1 week's time. So, I'll talk to you then. Good night from City Hall. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary.